Okay, so last week something really exciting happened. I got a care package from a new brand coming out of the US called Historic Labs. And I really love the theme that these guys have gone with. Every pre in their range, and there's 4 of them, has a different ancient culture as their theme, and they kind of pay homage to them with the packaging, and there's a little bit of, I guess, the formula leaning towards the given culture that is in question. For example, the high Stim pre, which is basically in homage to the Mayan culture. You've got the Thermogenic pre, which is in homage to the Chinese culture, and then we've got the mid-stim or daily driver pre. This is Zeus. This is obviously in homage to the ancient Greeks. And then probably my favorite theme out of all of them, the Egyptian. This is actually the non-stim. This is a very well thought out nootropic and pump formula that's designed to be had later in the day. I mean, just look at that packaging. Can you see those little hieroglyphics in there? And of course, you'll start to notice just how many trademarked ingredients are in these. They're really decked out. So where do I begin? Well, let's start with the non-stim. I actually just took this today, so I've had all 4 pre's now, and I feel like it's the right time to drop this video because I've actually used them as well as looked into their formulas, spoken with the brand, and got a feel for what the products are about, and so on. And I can say that the pumps on this are insane. We've got quite a nice pump matrix, and there's actually a theme throughout these pre's where the base pump matrix reappears in most of the pre's with some little changes around them. So it's kind of good that we kick off with this because pump is a big part of Historic Labs pre-workouts. So if you look, you'll see the base ingredient here in all of the pre's, which is built around the pump, and that is 6 grams of citrulline malate 2-to-1. Now, I personally prefer citrulline malate over L-citrulline because it has less of a laxative effect on my system, and I can drift up to about 6 grams of the dimalate and still have an epic pump without getting that kind of reaction from my body. If I had 6 grams of pure L-citrulline, though, unfortunately, that just starts to go straight through me. There's not a lot I can do about it. About 3 to 4 grams of pure L-citrulline is my limit. Malate variety gives it more of a delayed, slow release into the system, and that seems to agree better with my body. And yes, it yields a little bit less citrulline, but I guarantee you, you don't need that much citrulline to create pumps. Derek, I blame you for bringing about this 10-gram citrulline arms race that's been going on in pre's. I'm here for it, but it just doesn't agree with me. Anyway, point is, that's in there, and it's a great pump base. And then the next thing that most of them have is the Beta Pure, which is a trademark betaine that's great for pump endothelial function. So this is going to help with some nitric oxide from the endothelium. It's great at reducing homocysteine levels, which become, as Derek says, since I brought him up, a pump brick wall sometimes. This could be a limiting factor to how much pump you actually get. And it's really good for raising methionine, which is much more useful to nitric oxide production. Also great for methylation in the body and athletic performance. So great ingredient to see in there, synergizes well with the citrulline. And then we've got Hydra Prime, which you'll see in most of the pre's pump matrices. 2 grams of the Hydra Prime. But this one features 1,500 milligrams of nitrosigine, which is the bigger dose. You can do 750. 1,500 is the upper dose of nitrosigine or nitrosigine, however you like to say it. It's basically a form of arginine that's way more stabilized and slow release. It's bonded with silicate and inositol for a bit more of a steady trickle into the system. And I really rate about 1 gram of arginine with about 3 to 6 grams of citrulline. So you've got that perfect synergy here. I find arginine type pumps come on a little bit quicker. Citrulline creates this reservoir of pump in the system that hangs around longer. Glycerol there for the wet pump, and betaine for prolonging the pump. And of course, with all of those synergizing together, you're going to get insane pumps on this. But it doesn't stop there. We've got some great focus ingredients with 600 milligrams of lion's mane fruiting body. We've got 350 milligrams of Genius Pure alpha GPC. So this is the 90% yield alpha GPC. It's really good, the Genius Pure. There's something about it. I've had 90% alpha GPC before, but they're not very stable. Once they're at room temperature, they just liquefy. This is a stabilized form of alpha GPC, but it also seems to have a bit more focus to it than I've ever experienced before from any other alpha GPC I've taken. Then you've got the Synactive at 100 milligrams, which I think is a huge addition to have in here. This is a really good endurance boosting ingredient. Very good ingredient to see in like a non-stim pre where you're looking for different ways to boost performance outside of stimulants. And 100 milligrams is not a stingy dose. You often see it at about 50 milligrams. That's enough to really help with some endurance in the workouts. And then you've got estrogen, which is going to help those amino acids absorb so much better. So always great to see in with pump ingredients, which are amino acids. So that is the Amun-Ra non-stim pre. Now we move on to the mid-strength. And that, of course, is Zues, the Greek-themed pre, and I was surprised at how effective this is. I mean, I really like doses of around 250 milligrams of caffeine, and that's what this yields. So it's just straight up 250 milligrams of caffeine anhydrous. It comes on strong enough that you definitely feel it. It's great for daily driving on. It was really good for my morning cardio. I took this before a morning run, enjoyed it thoroughly, and for a weight session, it's just the right amount, particularly if you're training a little bit later on in the day. And once again, as we look down the list of ingredients here, we kick it off with that 6 grams of citrulline malate 2-to-1. And then, of course, it's got the Beta Pure again. So 2.5 grams of Beta Pure, synergizing for the pump and the athletic performance coming through there as well. Great for methylation in the body. I mean, really, I think it's safe to say that pre-workouts like this are actually healthy for us these days. Gone are the days of, I guess, quote unquote, dodgy, unhealthy pre's. And then you'll see the Hydro Prime at 2.5 grams. And so the Hydro Prime is actually at 2.5 grams in this pre, a half gram more than you'll see in the pump pre-workout. So even more wet pumps coming through on this one. The daily driver is actually quite strong on the pump matrix. And then you'll see it's actually got the Lion's Mane, 600 milligrams fruiting body for the focus, memory, recall, cognition, potentially even staving off dementia later on in life. And then next up, you'll see agmatine sulfate, 0.5 gram. This is actually a great inclusion. This is across some of the stim pre's. I'll show you as we go. This is going to help with pump. It's going to reduce the vasoconstriction from the stims, and it's going to help with the brain a little bit too. So I really like seeing that in there. It helps reduce a bit of inductible nitric oxide, which is kind of like inflammation. So I like agmatine. You don't see it around as much because I don't think you can get it in the UK now for some reason, but it's still cool in Australia and it's still cool in the US. And so no problem getting this in. Next, you've got the Alpha GPC. This is a consistent theme across the pre's, 350 milligrams of this Genius Pure yielding 90%. Great focus on these. And then you'll see in the stim pre's, the Rodeo Prime, the 6 times salicides, 6% salicides in here. Really good for mood increase, endurance, and really keeps the catecholamines around a bit longer too. So it's great for prolonging the stims and making them pop just that little bit more. Really cool ingredient. You don't see it around as much because I think China is now limiting exports of rhodiola due to just how rare the herbs become. And then there's that 250 milligrams of caffeine anhydrous heading up the stimulant matrix in this pre. And of course, we've got some estrogen in there to help all of that absorb, and then Synactive at 50 milligrams to help boost a bit of that athletic performance. So this is actually a really good all-rounder in the range. Pumps are almost as good as the pump pre. Stims are almost as good as some of the higher stim pre's that I'm getting to. Stim's almost as good as some of the highest stim pre's in the range, which I'll get to in just a moment. And it's got the Synactive in there still for performance boosting as well. Excellent all-rounder, great for cardio or hoisting up some heavy weights. Then we step it up one more notch with the Thermogenic pre that's Chinese themed. Now, I actually ended up falling in love with this one. Not only do they all taste great, by the way, and this is dragon fruit. This is possibly the best flavor or close second to the Peach Rings non-stim pump. But anyway, this one I liked a lot because I'm on a bit of a weight loss phase. I'm doing a lot of morning cardio and I found this pre so enjoyable to take for that purpose. Not only is it really smooth yet stimulating, but it's got 2 very potent thermogenic ingredients in there. Mito Burn, which is a great, unique, novel stimulant developed by Sean Wells and NMB that sort of mimics exercise and keeps the body in a state where it's converting white fat to brown fat, thinking that it's in an exercise mode is kind of the mechanism of action that they're going for with this. And then, of course, Calorie Burn, which is a great Grains of Paradise seed extract. And they put in a decent dose of 40 milligrams of that. So you get quite thermogenic on this, but it doesn't upset my stomach. I can take it before a run and know that I'm wasting a bit more of that stored body fat on the run and then thereafter throughout the day. Obviously, got to dial in your calories, otherwise you're going to out-eat this, no problem. It's got a very similar matrix to the rest, which is, of course, the 6 grams of citrulline malate, 2-to-1. Great for pumps, and you don't often get pumps in a thermogenic type product. So that's what's really cool about this. It's sort of like not missing the pump, which a lot of thermogenics skip over, just thinking that people only want it for fat burning. But often pump is great during a run. It seems to give my legs a bit more blood flow and just cushion my joints a little bit. And it's also amazing if you want to use this, hoist some weights around, but also burn a bit of fat at the same time. I actually love this product. Next up, you've got the Beta Pure, as in the previous, and then you've got the Hydro Prime at 2 grams this time, so a little bit less than Zues, back to the same dose that was in the non-stim pre, and you've got the Lion's Mane 600 milligrams fruiting body, so it's boosting that BDNF, that brain-derived neurotrophic factor that helps you make more neurons. It's going to help you with your neural plasticity, learning new things. So it's sort of great having these types of pre's in the morning and knowing you're also supporting your brain health throughout the day too. And then it's got the 0.5 gram of agmatine. So really nice pump on this too. Excellent pump base, and this is shockingly good on the pumps. Zues obviously has a slight edge on it, and then the non-stim pump is the most superior pump out of all of them. But this is still one of the better pumps I've had, and to have that on a thermo is quite novel and interesting. I love it. And then Alpha GPC, 350 milligrams, Genius Pure, as with the others. So the focus is absolutely there. Of course, it's got the Rhodiola, the Rodeo Prime, 300 milligrams, just like Zues. Great mood on this, helps with the endurance and makes the caffeine hit just that little bit more. And then we've got caffeine anhydrous 200 milligrams and then Zoom XR 100 milligrams. So we've got a fast hitting caffeine in the 200 milligrams of anhydrous, and then we've got the 100 milligrams of Zoom XR, which is a delayed release caffeine, and it yields about 70% caffeine. So you're looking at about 270 milligrams of caffeine total yield. So nothing crazy, but enough to get you going and very practical. You can even take this if you're not planning to work out, you just want to use it as a daily thermo. I like that about this pre. And then to round it all out, we've got the estrogen in there, which is going to help, of course, everything absorb, particularly the pump ingredients. So that's the Thermogenic pre. That's probably my favorite, but I think the biggest crowd pleaser is coming up next. Check this one out. And here we have the high stim based on the Mayan culture. It's got 350 milligrams of anhydrous caffeine, then it's got the 100 milligrams of the Zoom XR on top of that, so you're getting about 420 milligrams of caffeine, and some of it being delivered just that little bit later from the Zoom XR, so you don't get the crash on this because it's taking you up quite a bit higher on the stims. The same base of 6 grams of citrulline malate, 2-to-1. It's got the carnosine beta-alanine. So this is the only pre in the range to have a full dose of beta-alanine. The others don't have any, BYO, so bring those tingles as you see fit. But this is a really high quality beta-alanine that is very tingly. So anyone that's going to want the high stims, probably going to want the tingles as well, and they've sort of thought about that before they put this one together. So expect a lot of stimulation. You've got the Hydro Prime in here, the 2 grams, so plenty of wet pump coming through there as well, cellular hydration, and then straight on to the Lion's Mane. So we're skipping the betaine, but we've got the 600 milligrams of Lion's Mane fruiting body in there. We've got the caffeine, as mentioned, at 350, the Genius Pure at 350 milligrams, so plenty of focus in here. Still got the really good Genius Pure 90% alpha GPC. The Rodeo Prime's in there, make those stims pop even harder. Same dose as in the other pre's that have it, with the 6% salicides at 300 milligrams. And then, as mentioned, the Zoom XR 100 milligrams, and estrogen to make all of this pop just that little bit harder, 50 milligrams. So it's stripped back, it's got the beta-alanine, and the stims are turned up on high. This is available in Australia right now from Empire Labs out in Sutherland Shire. You can order off their website, and I believe you can get the creatine from them too. This is probably the pre that it's the biggest crowd pleaser, but for me, this is my choice. I actually really like Zues or the Chinese themed pre. I really enjoy those thermos in there. It's just been serving me so well. It's just a pleasant, nice, smooth experience. This one is outrageous. This absolutely slaps hard. There's enough focus in there to support it. There's some great pump on it too, but it's really all about the stims, this one. So if you like high stim pre's, you will enjoy it. But for me, it was a little bit more than I needed. So it's nice to know they have it in the range. And so if you like high stim, well, they got it. I just love the fact that this brand has done 4 different pre's for 4 different types of use case or preference. That's just cool. I haven't seen a brand really ever do that before. I know Infidus has at least 3 to 4 pre's right now. They're another outlier in a very different way. I haven't seen them do I haven't seen anyone do what they've done before either. But aside from that, I really don't think there's any other brand out there with more than 2 stimulant pre's in their range and a pump product. That's a good selection to have in a range, and that's usually a pretty well-established brand. But for a brand like this to erupt on the scene with 4 options, I just think it's awesome. I love what they're doing. That's the 4 different pre-workouts in the Historic Labs range. There is just that many trademark ingredients. You can see them here all listed. And then You've got the icons running down the side on each pre, and you just know these guys haven't spared any expense on quality sourcing to make sure that you're getting the most out of these ingredients, and they're all top notch. So, Historic Labs, keep an eye on these guys. They're doing big things. Available in Australia at Empire Labs and all over America. Big thank you to Historic Labs for sending them out. I'm going to be enjoying these for the coming weeks, that's for sure. And stay tuned for more reviews coming up soon.